Will have the Mangalacharan by these two young boys, Siddhartha and Vinesh.
जयति जगति गूढ़ान् अंधकारे पदार्थान् जनधन तृणयायं व्यञ्जयन् आत्मभाभिः जयति जगति गूढ़ान् अंधकारे पदार्थान् जनधन तृणयायं व्यञ्जयन् आत्मभाभिः विमलितमनसां सद्वासनाभ्यासयोगैः विमलितमनसां सद्वासनाभ्यासयोगैः अभिज परमतत्त्वं योगिनां भानुरेकः अपि च परमतत्त्वं योगिनां भानुरेकः अथ निजकृतशास्त्रे तत्प्रसादात् पदार्थान् अथ निजकृतशास्त्रे तत्प्रसादात् पदार्थान् शिशुजनघृणयाहं व्यञ्जयामि यत्र गूढान् शिशुजनघृणयाहं व्यञ्जयामि यत्र गूढान् विमलितमनसां सद्वासनाभ्यासयोगैः विमलितमनसां सद्वासनाभ्यासयोगैः यदि भवति यथैषां तत्त्वभूतार्थबोधः अथ निजकृतशास्त्रे तत्प्रसादात् पदार्थान् शिशुजनघृणयाहं व्यञ्जयामि यत्र गूढान् विमलितमनसां सद्वासनाभ्यासयोगैः हृदि भवति यथैषां तत्त्वभूतार्थबोधः
Professor M.D. Srinivas earned his Masters in Physics from Bangalore University and PhD from the University of Rochester. He taught at the University of Madras from 1976 to 1996. He is currently the chairman of the Center for Policy Studies, Chennai. His areas of research interest include scientific and technological traditions of India. His paper on the methodology of Indian mathematics and its contemporary relevance is regarded as a landmark. In collaboration with Professors M.D. Srinivas and Dr. K. Ramasubramaniam, he has brought out the Ganita Yukti Bhasha of Jeshtadeva. I take the opportunity to invite Professor Srinivas to start his lecture.
Organizers, especially Professor Bedekar, Professor Sharma, for giving me this great opportunity to listen to some of the great stalwarts of on Bhaskara and his works. It's one of the conferences which has been planned extremely meticulously, and to sort of top it all, the speakers have also planned their talks equally meticulously, and so we will straight away proceed to. I am trying to say something about the Vasana Bhashyas of Bhaskara. So, as we all know, apart from the four components of Siddhanta Shiromani and Karna Kutuhala, Bhaskara wrote commentaries on them. Rishimadeva Vigyanis Vasana Vartika mentions that Bhaskaracharya first composed a commentary on the great classic Shishyadhi Vriddhida of Lalla. Unfortunately, the edition that we have of this book published from Sampurnanand is not a very good edition. But each verse of Lalla has an explanation by Bhaskara followed by an Upapatti in that. Bhaskara wrote Vasana commentaries on Lilavati and Bijaganita also, but there he restricted himself to explaining what are called the Uddeshakas or the examples and explain how the solutions of these examples are obtained. Rarely there are some comments, some gems, so we will see some of them. It is the Mitakshara or the Vasana Bhashya and Siddhanta Shiromani where Bhaskara presents detailed explanations as well as Upapattis. And this is indeed a seminal text. It includes very many illuminating discussions on the methodology of the science of mathematics and astronomy in India. So we will look at Sattis. In particular, we will try to focus a little bit on Goladhyaya. It's a very big Adhyaya. We will take a few examples from there. And we shall get a glimpse of how science was sort of understood and practiced in India in the middle of 12th century. In fact, this entire conference is indeed about that, and there's a small addition to that. So, Lilavati Vasana has many interesting things. Right at the beginning, after giving the paribhasha, he says, the Kalamanadi paribhashaha lokataha jnyayaha. They have to be known, the paribhashas are to be known from the world. Every algorithm is referred to as a Karana Sutra. In fact, every verse, Varganene Karana Sutra. So, every sutra is an algorithm in Lilavati. Then you can see that how the calculations are made. So, he has this nyasa or laying down things or presenting the way of calculation. And there are interesting things like when he talks about 0, he says that multiplication and division by 0 things should not be immediately done. One should go on, keep the zeros and finally cancel them out in calculation. And this is there in Vasana. And then he says, Asya Ganitasya Grahaganite Mahan Upyogaha. In fact, the example that Sri Ram was explaining yesterday of the shadow and the Chaya Karana, both of them becoming sort of 0, but the ratios coming out to be determinate. That was an example. Very importantly, systematic and detailed working out of examples and elucidating many processes with figures, especially in the Kshetra Vyavahara. So this is what is the essence of the Vasana Bhashya. So for instance, there are some small remarks which are like proofs that the well-known principle that if the sum of the sides of a figure, if you have an n-sided figure, if any of the n minus 1 sides, if you add them, if that turns out to be less than or equal to the nth side, then that does not make a closed figure. So such a thing is called an akshetra. So Bhaskara is here saying in this example that anupapanne kshetre bhuja pramanaha rujushalaka bhujastaneshu vinyasya anupapattihi darshaniya, that it is not a well-formed figure, should be shown by making rods, and then you will see that the figure does not close. Like comments like this above. Similarly, there is a very interesting explanation of a negative number geometrically as a line segment which is in the opposite direction. If you think of a line segment in one direction as a positive number, then when that number becomes negative, this line segment has to go in the opposite direction. A very important geometrical understanding of Rina or negative quantities. So this is the usual calculation for the two intercepts of the base. When you draw a perpendicular, they are called abadhas. So this is the usual way the abadhas are calculated, a simple application of the right angle triangle theorem for the two triangles. Now the example then Bhaskara gives, he gives several examples. Then he gives an example, a famous example, that's a Dasha Saptadasha Pramau Bhujau. So 10 and 17 and 9 are the three sides of the triangle. And then he asks the question, please tell me what are the base intercepts. As you can see, this is a triangle where one of the sides, the angles are becoming more than 90. So one of the intercepts is going that side. So one intercept is 15, another intercept is 9. So, but they are in different direction. The 15 is in negative direction and 9 is in positive direction. So if you do the calculation mechanically, you will come up with the intercept to be 21, which has to be subtracted from 9. And that cannot be done. And so it should be understood as a intercept in the negative direction. So C1 plus C2 is 9. C2 minus C1 is 21. From that you will get C1 to be minus 6. So in Bhaskara's words, Anena bhuhu una nasyat. From 21, 21 cannot be subtracted from 9. Asmadeva bhuhu apanita sheshadham runagata abadha dvaiparityena ityarthaha. The negative intercept is to be understood as an abadha in the opposite direction. Now, similarly, this example I think was mentioned yesterday or day before yesterday by Professor Dani, that the Brahmagupta's formula, square root of s into s minus a into s minus b, s minus c, s minus d, Bhaskara calls that formula as Sarvador Yutidalam, that was. So he has given an example of a trapezium. You apply the Sarvador Yutidalam, obviously this is not a cyclic quadrilateral. Therefore, the square root of s into s minus a into s minus b formula will not work for it. So he shows that that calculation will lead to 50. But we know the area of a trapezium. It can be calculated by adding the areas of two right angle triangles and a rectangle. And the actual area is 198. And so this is the way he is explaining that Brahmagupta formula is not applicable everywhere. Similarly, the other method that Brahmagupta had given, this method of constructing a particular class of cyclic quadrilateral, they are now called Brahmagupta cyclic quadrilaterals, where it's a cyclic quadrilateral where the two diagonals are mutually perpendicular to each other. Such a cyclic quadrilateral is called a Brahmagupta cyclic quadrilateral. So such a cyclic quadrilateral can be constructed by taking two right angle triangles, multiplying the sides of one by the sides of the other. You can obtain the sides of the cyclic quadrilateral. And so the Brahmagupta standard construction is demonstrated, and that gives rise to this kind of a, so that gives, my hands are not good enough. So that gives rise to, what am I doing? Yes. That gives rise to this kind of a cyclic quadrilateral with two diagonals mutually opposite, perpendicular to each other. Having explained all this, Bhaskara in the Vasana Bhashya only mentions in a brief way that Atha yadi Parshva Bhujamkayoho Vyatyayam Kritva Nyastam Kshetram. So you interchange two of the sides, then you get a different quadrilateral. Here the product of the original hypotenuse, 65, will be the new hypotenuse. And Tada Jatyadvaya Karnayoho Vadha 65, Dvitiyaha Karnaha. So this is the way he is in the Vasana Bhashya introducing several interesting things that he does not speak in the main text. Quickly let us go through Bijaganita also. So the idea that Khara is infinite, so after presenting an example where he is asking for 3 by 0, then he says, I am Ananto Rashihi Khara ityuchyate. And after that he goes into this very beautiful words which was yesterday highlighted by Professor Filioza. Oh no, I have not put that words here. That Asmin Mikare Kaharo Narashau. So that example. Now, the question was asked yesterday, how far did Bhaskara understand the mathematics of zero? He is asking for the multiplication by zeros and division by zero to all be kept as it is and cancellations done at the end. And here is the first example where Bhaskara is really slipping in that sort of a thing. He has cancelled out 0 and 0 squared in this example. So 10 into 0 into x plus x by 2 whole thing squared plus 2 into 0 into x plus x by 2 divided by 0 is equal to 15 is the equation. Obviously this cannot be solved where 0 squared in the numerator, 0 in the denominator. So the order of infinitesimals is still not Bhaskara's forte. Though he has understood that sometimes infinitesimals can be cancelled in a very beautiful way to to get beautiful results. So this is an example. And the understanding of order of infinitesimals you will find for the first time only in the Kerala mathematicians' works. Similarly, algebraic notation is just explaining it in by two sentences. Atra rupanam avyaktanam cha adyaksharani upalakshanartham lekyani. So to show the unknown quantities for both the numbers and for the unknowns, you use the first letters. Tata yani unagatani tani urdhva binduni cha. Put a dot above. So he's explaining the algebraic notation. Again, detailed working out of calculations, solutions of indeterminate equations by Kutraka-Chakrawala method, systematic and detailed equations, and even there is some discussion of Upapatti. So this is all there in Vasna Bhashya. So you will see Vasna Bhashya almost like a text. So one example is this x squared minus 61 y squared equal to 0. So that is the ka chaikashishti gunita cha sakhe sarupa. So the working goes like this. I'm not going to explain this working. So it goes like this. So just to give you an idea how the Vasana Bhashya is actually explaining the solution. And today we try to lay it down. These are not the steps that Bhaskara is using is this step, from that he goes to this step, and from that he goes to the final step. So that is the way the Chakrawala calculation is explained. There is a very interesting fourth order equation solved by quadratic equation solved by Bhaskara, and this was highlighted first by Krishnaswamy Iyengar. This is an equation of this type to which you can always add a quadratic term to make it a perfect square. But to do that, the unknown coefficients q and b, a and b, you will get a cubic equation for that in general. So unless you know how to solve a cubic equation, you cannot do that. But Bhaskara gave an example where he guessed this a and b. So here is his fourth order equation. First I will show the working of Bhaskara just to tell you that this is the way workings are explained in Vasana Bhashya. The complete details are given. It is like any algebra textbook of today. So what Bhaskara is doing here, he is adding 4x squared plus 400x plus 1 to both sides of this equation. Then you can take the square root of both sides. It is reduced to a simple quadratic equation. But here he has guessed. And Bhaskara knows he has guessed it. He is actually saying, this cannot be done. Just you keep both sides. We cannot, na anya pakshesya moolam asti, evam kriyana nirvahati. If you just do it in the usual way, you cannot take square roots on both sides. Ato atra swabuddhihi. Similarly, ityadi buddhimatadniyam. So, only when you are able to correctly guess that quadratic that you should add, you are able to solve this. Okay. In the chapter on Bhavita, Bhaskara talks about Upapatti. So he gives a Bhavita equation and asks that to be solved. Bhavita equation is a linear equation of with a quadratic term, meaning axy plus bx plus cy is equal to k. That is a Bhavita equation. He is looking for rational solutions and integral solutions only. And there he is explaining what Upapatti is. The Upapatti is always of two types. One is geometrical, another is algebraic. We will first give the geometrical, and then he says, after having given the geometrical, he says now the algebraic Upapatti will be given. Even the algebraic Upapatti is based upon Kshetra. Sapi Kshetra Moolantarabhuta. So that is also geometrical, geometry based. Iyameva Kriya Purvacharyahi Sankshipta Patena Nibadha. So this method of giving Upapatti has been an oral tradition that has been coming out from the ancient acharyas. And then he says those who do not know the geometrical, do not understand geometrical proof, they should be given the algebraic demonstration. Then we will not give the Bhavita equation proof, we will do it for the more simpler problem. So when Bhaskara gives this Bhuja Koti Karna Nyaya or the Pythagoras theorem, in a right angle triangle with 15 and 20, what is the hypotenuse? Also give the demonstration for this traditional method of calculation. This is the verse of Bijaganita. Upapattischa rudhasya ganitasyasya kathyatam. So then he has given this geometrical proof, which is the usual proof perhaps that we teach even today in schools. You take these two right angle triangles. Each of them is similar to the original right angle triangle. And so by two sort of similarity arguments, you are able to get the fact that the square of the hypotenuse is equal to sum of the squares. This is known as John Wallis's proof in modern Western tradition. Then he gives the algebraic proof. Again, I am not going to read it out. I am displaying just to show that there is a text which is talking about all this. And essentially, the basic idea here is you lay down the four right angle triangles inside that figure, inside a square. There will be a smaller square which is in the interior. And so this bigger square is the square of the hypotenuse, c squared. That is a minus b whole squared plus 4 into half of AB, which is the area of each of these triangles. So this is a well-known proof of the Pythagorean theorem, well-known from ancient times. There are similar proofs in the Chinese commentaries of the 9 chapters and things like that. Now we come to Siddhanta Shiromani, and this wonderful verse was recited today. It was the second verse of the Vasana Bhashya of Bhaskara. So he is explaining why he is writing this Vasana Bhashya. Basically, that he wants the students to understand by the practice of these explanations and the examples. Sad Vasana Abhyasa Yogaihi Tattva Bhutartha Bodha Yatha Hridi Bhavati. So for the Shishujana Granaya, out of my concern for the youngsters in the field, they could be old in age. Vimalita Manasam, for people who are sort of pure intellect, and so for them, the true nature of things they should understand by knowing the explanations and also have the practice. So this is the idea of the entire Vasana Bhashya. In fact, I think in the entire Indian tradition of astronomy and mathematics, this is perhaps the first text available which deals with all issues in such great detail. So, in the very second chapter, Bhaskara tries to discuss the issue, what is a demonstration in the science of astronomy? We know to some extent what is demonstration in algebra and geometry, which we saw in Bijaganita. So, first he writes down the revolution number of all the planets. So, sun does 43,20,000 revolutions in a Mahayuga, moon, etc. So, he starts with the question. Now, we will write down proofs for this. So, who can understand these proofs? Proofs only can be understood by those who are well versed in the language, and they also know that the kshetra samsthana jnanena shruta golenaiva shrotum shakyate. One who understands the mathematics of the sphere and one who knows the actual geometrical positions of the planet, only such a person can understand the proof. So really these proofs will be understood only after knowing the Goladhyaya a little bit. And next the question is, these are the various parameters that we are using. They are of course the planets, their revolution numbers, their apogees or aphelions, Mandocha, their revolution numbers. Then there is something called the Shigrocha in Indian astronomy, their revolution numbers. Then there is the Pata, which is the points of intersection of the orbits of the planets with the ecliptic. So their revolution numbers. So what is the basis for coming to this? So one is Agama Eva Pramanam. So the traditional texts are indeed the valid source for understanding what is the actual revolution numbers. But then the question comes, Sacha Agamaha Mahata Kalena Lekaka Adhyapaka Adhyetr Doshaihi Bahudha Jataha. So the traditional text and the traditional wisdom passed on has become manifold, multifold because of the writer's fault, people who write the manuscripts, the people who teach the text, and by the learners. All the three can make errors, and so it becomes. So how do we now go? So he says, Yadyeva Muchyate Ganita Skandhe Upapattiman Eva Agama Pramanam. This is the canonical sentence, the rest is all an explanation of that. So only such traditional texts which you can correlate and establish, justify by other justifications like observations and various other things, only they will be valid sources of knowledge in the science of astronomy. Now then he goes into various issues that this kind of justification for the texts cannot always be provided. Maybe for the sun we can find out that in 365 days or between 365 and 360 days he completes one revolution around the ecliptic. But how is it for things like the apogee of the sun? Takes hundreds of years to move appreciably. So this cannot be done during the lifetime of a person. Even Saturn takes 30 years, around 30 years to go around the ecliptic. And so how this is to be done? So this issue is beyond human capacity. So the intelligent astronomers, what do? They adopt a traditional text which gives results currently in agreement with observations and which is also accepted by other competent astronomers. Then they go ahead and compose their own treatises in order to show their skills and mastery in computations and spherics, and to refute the errors of other astronomers which could have arisen out of their confusion. Their intention is mainly to show their own skill in the methods of computation, and he says that's what I am also doing. I have taken the text of Brahmagupta as my standard reference. Wherever I have tried to obtain something more, that initial verse was quoted by Professor Sriram yesterday, that people should read the whole of my text because they will find at various places the improvements that I have done. So then he raises another philosophical issue that there is a certain itaretara ashraya dosha in Upapatti. So because both the Sputagraha and the Mandagraha, mean planet and the true planet, are being talked about, aren't they mutually dependent? Then the commentator Bhaskara merely says that this mutual dependency is a myth, it is really not there. Itareta dosha bhasaha. So it's not really a problem. So Nrsimha Devagya explains it by saying, when one is talking of true planet and then goes to the mean planet, the true planet is what is observed. When one is talking of mean planet and goes to true planet, one is talking of what is being computed, and therefore there is no error of mutual dependency. So this is the kind of issues that Bhaskara discusses. This is one of the passages which is the most important of the kind of issues that he is discussing, how the various quantities have to be. Now I have not translated this. This is a Upapatti of the sidereal period of the sun. And the Upapatti is very simple. You draw a big circle and observe the point where the sun is rising every day. So after 365 days, you find that the sun has risen slightly to the south of that point. Next day, you find that the sun has risen slightly to the north of that point. So by doing Trirashika, you get the very complicated number 365, 15, 30, 22. These are all in sexagesimal units. Of course, the commentator immediately catches the error Bhaskara had done. He has obtained the sidereal revolutions by observing the rising point of the sun. The rising point of the sun is dependent on the tropical rate of motion, the Sayana Surya. So the commentator explained that it is Sayana Surya. You have to add the Ayana Amsha and then Ayana correction, then you will get this. So these are the kind of proofs. Another proof is for the solar apogee. So there he is saying that daily observe the sun, observe him the next day also, take the difference of longitudes. So that is the daily rate of motion. Where the daily rate of motion is the minimum, that is the point of solar apogee. And so these are the kind of arguments that he is giving as to how these quantities have to be found. Now the commentator Nrsimha Devagya at this point goes into a big discussion after having Bhaskara has given all these Upapattis. Nrsimha Devagya goes into a big discussion saying that, of course, we have argued all this, but there are many planetary theories. Nrsimha Devagya in 1621, 500 years after Bhaskara, he has given in his commentary talks of three planetary models, a Yamana planetary model, then a planetary model, planetary theory actually, not merely a calculational model. What is their physical theory also. Then the Aryabhata model, then the model of Brahmagupta and Bhaskara. And then he says that we should understand that Graha Gati Pratipadakam Shastram Tavat Pramanam Gatehe Pratyakshopalabdhatvat. So the validity of any science of planetary motion or any theory of planetary motion is merely based upon its being in conformity with observations. Even in many other areas where we are even much more bothered about the truth or falsity of our ideas, like in philosophy or metaphysics, etc., you find many, many theories available. So there is no reason why one should be worried if there are several theories, as long as they are in conformity with observations. And in the end, Nrisimha comes up with a very important quotation, which is from the commentary of Prithudaka Swamini in Brahmagupta. Yatha Vaiyakarinaha Prakriti Pratyaya Agama Lopa Vikaraihi Asatya Rupaihi Satyam Shabda Sadhutvam Pratipadyante, etc., etc. That is, Prakriti Pratyaya Agama Lopa Vikara are all concepts which are used in the science of grammar of Panini. He uses all them to derive valid words from the initial pratipadikas, etc., and the kridantas and the various pratyayas. So in the same way, the people are using Shigra Mandala, Manda Pratimandala, and various other things. Astronomers also use, as long as they are able to obtain, and also various measures of the planets and sizes of Earth, Sun, Moon, etc. So these are all inputs, and from that we are able to obtain results which are fairly in consonance with observations. That is the test of a science, and we should always be happy with that, and we need not all the time go behind and try to see what is behind all this. It is a very old attitude that these procedures given in Shastras are what are called upayas. They are actually methods, instrumentalities for arriving at results which are valid in observation. And this is a quotation from the previous Bhaskara, Bhaskara 1. While he starts the discussion of planetary model, he is roughly saying the same thing that Prithudaka Swamini is saying, that just as the linguists obtain true words by various objects which are imaginary concepts or ideas or objects, using them they are able to derive valid words. Just as the medicinal practitioners use imaginary objects to practice their surgery, in the same way, evam atrapi madhyama mandocha shigro tat paridhi jya kashtabhuja koti karnadi vyavaharena samvatsaraha grahanam sphutagatim pratijanante. They use all these concepts. Tasmad upayeshu asatyeshu satya pratipadana pareshu. I mean, even if these concepts are false, there is nothing wrong if they are giving you the true result. That is what it means. It's not that he is assuming that these concepts have no physical correlation. He is saying that as far as we understand, these are the concepts from which we are able to, but their main role is in obtaining the result. In a very similar context, 1,000 years later, Nilakantha is quoting a very famous quotation from Bhartrhari in Vakyapadiya, who is saying that even the 5,000 sutras of Panini, if somebody comes up with some other entire system of grammar and is able to derive all words of Sanskrit, that should be equally acceptable, that these are only a upaya. Okay. Now we come to Goladhyaya. Next 10 minutes I will try to say something on Goladhyaya. These are the various chapters of Goladhyaya. There is a Prashamsa of Gola, Gola Swarupa Prashna, Bhuvana Kosha, the station of earth and various mountains and various parts of earth. Madhyagati Vasana, Chedyakadhikara, where he is explaining the planetary model. Gola Bandhadhikara, Triprashna Vasana, that is the explanation of all the. Actually, the greatest part of Vasana Bhashya is in the Grahaganita Adhyaya, in the Triprashnadhikara, where Bhaskara really proves all the shadow and other calculations using both methods of geometry and algebra in a very, very sophisticated way. Grahana Vasana, Udayasta Vasana, etc. Entradhyaya, very important chapter. I am sure Professor Sharma will say something on that. Rutuvarnana, this is a very poetic chapter. In fact, this Rutuvarnana chapter in all Siddhantas are very poetic. Recently, I think Professor Knudsen and his collaborators, a professor from Oxford, Minkowski, they have been working on this kind of a thing. Jyotpati is a very, very beautiful and interesting chapter where Bhaskara is calculating sine of 1 degree and sine A plus B formula. Okay. But Bhaskara presents a verse which is perhaps the standard verse in Indian mathematics and astronomy as to what a upapatti is supposed to do. I am sure all of you have already come across this verse, but for people who have not come across that, Praudhim Praudasabhasu Naiti Ganako Nisamshayo na swayam. One mathematician or astronomer who does not know how to justify or demonstrate his result. He will not be respected in an assembly of astronomers or mathematicians, and he will not be able to be free of doubt whenever he is questioned as to the validity of the statement or the procedure or the result that he is making. A very similar words by Ganesha Devagnya, 400 years later, in the beginning of Buddhi Vilasini, commentary on Lilavati, same thing. Vyakteva vyakta sangye, yaduditam akhilam, nopapatti minatat, nirbhranto vadatetam, suganaka sadasi, praudhatam naiticha. So this is an accepted view in the Indian astronomical circles. Basically, that upapattis are to remove confusion and doubts regarding validity and interpretation, and they have to be something that is accepted in the community of. This means something like a paper being accepted for publication in a journal today. The crucial thing that's absent is the stress on the ultimate truth or validity of the proposition. It's not that you are proving something untrue, but you don't think of proof as the vehicle by which you will be able to demonstrate the inexorable truth of the irrefutable, irrefragable is the word. Okay. So now, some interesting discussions in Bhuvana Kosha, 3 minutes on this. This verse was quoted, a very beautiful verse, that earth has a Shakti in itself. If one wants to think of support for the earth, then one has to think of support for that, then as one has to, so that is called infinite regress, or the Latin word that Professor Filiosa used yesterday. And the main point is the Vasana Bhashya is saying, Idanim Puraneshu Bhumehe Adhara Parampara Ya Patita Tam Nirakurvana. She is sort of refuting or rejecting what is said in Puranas about it. So this each verse is always, there is a comment before the verse saying what the particular verse is going to do. Another more interesting thing, which even Professor Narlikar has cited with great appreciation, is that Bhumi has a Akrishti Shakti. It has an attraction capacity that heavy bodies fall back on earth, and therefore he also says one doesn't need to think of earth falling all through, nor should one worry about what is happening to people and objects are on the other side of the earth, because the earth is attracting. The earth has a Shakti, and this Shakti is something that is also, this was cited by Professor Filiosa, very beautiful word. Just as the sun has hotness, then everything, I mean this stone has hardness, so earth naturally has a power of attraction. Akrishta Shaktischa Mahityanena Bhumehe Adha Patanam Tat Tiryagadha Sthitanam Cha Adha Patana Shanka Nirasta. So that's the kind of importance Vasana Bhashya said. Then he discusses, rejects the idea of falling earth. The Bauddhas are supposed to hold this. That has already been rejected. The interesting quotation in this is the argument he is making. You throw up an arrow, since it falls back on the earth, earth is not falling down. Why? Because heavier bodies fall faster than lighter bodies. You understand? I am sure you all agree. So, yato gurutaram shighram patati. So, that was the physical view that he is using to. Later, towards the end of Bhuvana Kosha, the mathematics of sphere is being discussed. So, he gives an accurate value of pi. He is rejecting the value of Sripati and Brahmagupta. He is adopting the accurate value of pi given by Aryabhata. Sripati and Brahmagupta are using square root of 10 as the value of pi. Of course, he says, Sridharacharya Brahmagupta Dibhi Vyasa Vargat Dashagunat Padam Paridhi Sthulopi Angikataha tu Sukartham Nahite na Jananti. It was not that they didn't know. They said calculations can be made much more easily. This is the way a commentator in India would try to explain away the faults of the, but this has been pointed out by both Indian and Western Indologists in different ways. Okay. Now the surface area and volume, I will not discuss this, but you should know that Bhaskara is the first person in Indian tradition of astronomy and mathematics to have correctly given the value of the surface area and the volume of a sphere. Of course, there are an interpretation of some words of Sridharacharya, which can be interpreted as correct area, correct value for the volume of a sphere. Now he is giving the proof of this also. The proof is essentially based upon, for the surface area, you divide the sphere into various small strips like this, and each of these strips you break them open and make it into a trapezium. Then the area of the trapezium is given by the two end sides, which are nothing but the r sines of the corresponding arc. And then he does a wonderful summation of the r sines. Unlike Yukti Bhasha later, who will do an actual integration, a limit taking procedure, he actually does what we today call as numerical summation and equates it into the value of the integral by guessing the result and correspondingly equating the value. So he is finally getting something like this here. The summation of the sines is leading him this number, which is 3437.39 squared. He says this is 3438 squared, and therefore he has proved. And of course he says in the process of the proof that by splitting the sphere into greater and greater number of parts, you will get better result. And what Yukti Bhasha and other texts later on do is, they start with a certain number of parts and they will tell you what will be the result when the number of parts become indeed really large. And for the volume of the sphere that was dealt with, now I come to the planetary model of Bhaskara. Give me 3 minutes to tell you. 2 minutes. So this is the verse. Actually we can stop with this verse. Evan ekenaiva shlokena sankhepena chedaka sarvatva muktva idanim kinchit savistaram chhatram pratyah. So in a single verse, mainly he has said that the orbits in which planets move is not centered at the center of the earth. The center of the earth is different. The center of the orbits in which the planets move is different. Then he gives the Manda correction, he gives the Shigra correction. In the Manda correction, there is an extra rule which Professor Sriram explained today, that the Manda radius given in text is not the actual Manda radius in which of the orbit in which planet is moving. That Manda radius continuously varies. It may vary due to the kind of reason that Professor Balachandra Rao explained, that the Manda epicycle is pulsating between different quadrants. That is, it is a function of the argument. But here there is another variation such that the Manda radius always stays proportional to the Manda Karna. We can see it from this diagram, that this is the mean planet. This is the Manda epicycle with the mean radius, but the true radius of the Manda epicycle is something different. It is such that the ratio of the two Karna to the true epicycle is the same as the ratio of the mean radius to the mean epicycle. So R by K is equal to R naught by R. The final equation of center, K will disappear. The Manda Karna does not appear. This is a very crucial thing for Bhaskara. About Shigra epicycles, he uses them as variable, and only for Mars he adds some more complication. And he also says that you should adopt the 4-step process. Do the Manda calculation, then Shigra calculation, then Manda calculation, then Shigra calculation. That is what will give you the true planet. All this is old. Aryabhatta and others have done this. Now the main thing that is true about Bhaskara is, he explains what is the geometrical model in the end, and that is done in Goladhyaya. There is some confusion on this, so maybe I will use 1 minute to tell you. What Bhaskara is saying is, Madhyagatya swakaksha vritte vrajet manda nichocha vrittasya madhyam yataha tad vrittau shigra nichocha vritta madhyam. So there is a concentric, then there is a Manda epicycle, and on that Manda epicycle is the center of the Shigra nichocha vritta. That is the meaning Bhaskara is wanting to say. Shigra nichocha vrittasya madhyam yataha tad vrittau refers to what was immediately above. But our great commentator Narasimha Devagya understood this Tadvrittam as Kaksha Vrittam. So that is on the concentric, and therefore Narasimha Devagya is thinking of Bhaskara's planetary model as a concentric with the two epicycles, double epicycle model. But Bhaskara himself is thinking of a concentric with one epicycle, another epicycle, or you can think of it as an eccentric and an epicycle. Now the reason for understanding this is Narasimha Devagya, we will forget about that. The reason why Bhaskara is saying this becomes clear by looking at this very beautiful verse where he is explaining that in Manda correction you don't use the Karana, only in the Shigra correction you use the Karana. There was some misunderstanding, even someone like Pruthudakacharya misunderstood Brahmagupta. When Brahmagupta said that in Manda correction Karana is not to be used, that is because the Manda epicycle keeps varying in proportional to the Karana, which does not happen in Shigra. And so Bhaskara is explaining that even somebody like Brahmagupta was wrong here, and while explaining this, he is explaining what is the Kakshya Mandala according to Brahmagupta. Brahmagupta atra karanamaha. Trijya bhaktaha paridhi katyadi. That's the verse of Brahmagupta. Manda karmani, manda karna tulyena vyasardhena yad vrittam utpadyate tat kaksha mandalam. So in manda process, you have to take the radius same as manda karna, not as the concentric, as the final orbit of the planet. On that the Shigra epicycle stands, and so, ho gaya, 1 minute. So this is the planetary model of Bhaskara, that this is the concentric, this is the eccentric for Manda process, this is the circle for the Shigra process, that is where the planet stands. This was what was thought of by later Maharashtrian astronomers as the Yavana model of planetary motion. One epicycle on the other epicycle. If you read Nrsimha Deva's commentary carefully, this is what will come out. But this is what Bhaskara's planetary model was, and he is saying Brahmagupta also had this model. And to prove this, I will just give you one more example, that in lunar eclipse, the distance of the moon, if the Mandakarna is not essential and the planet is on the concentric, there is no question of a variable distance of the moon. But in lunar eclipse, Bhaskara says, use the Mandakarna. But for Mandakarna, you have to do iterate, meaning to calculate the Mandakarna, you have to do asakrit karma. You have to do repeated iterations. And then Bhaskara says, no, I will give you a simple formula. So he says, you calculate the Karna in first step, do r squared by 2r minus k1. That will be good enough for the iterated Mandakarna. Of course, for Indian astronomers, that was not good enough. Within 200 years of Bhaskara, Madhava came up with a complete analytical solution for this iterated Mandakarna. K is equal to r squared by rv, where something called the Viparita Karna comes in. And this makes the planetary orbit more complex. It's something like a fourth order equation, not a quadratic. It's an oval figure. Even without pulsating epicycles, the planetary model from the Aryabhata times, the planetary motion around the sun is not a circle, it is a oval or it's a fourth order planet. So I will close this with just 2-3 concluding remarks. So words such as Vasana Bhashya and Ganita Yukti Bhashya, Aryabhatiya Bhashya, etc. Just the previous one. The works of Bhaskaracharya, deservedly acquired the status of canonical textbooks. Hundreds of manuscripts are all available. I think there are more than 300 manuscripts of Lilavati. Scores of commentaries are written, translations. The Vasana Bhashya has become the paradigmatic model for presentation of detailed explanations. Most importantly, instead of being the last astronomer or mathematician of India, as many historians till recent times wrote, Bhaskara was the originator all over India of a new astronomical and mathematical way of doing things. His textbooks were the source. This Ganita Kaumudi and Bija Ganita Tamsa Narayan Pandita, who was in North India somewhere, they are just models after Lilavati, but they are almost double in size. So are the works of the Kerala astronomers. They are all borrowed from Bhaskara profusely. So it has an all-India influence. His being somewhere centrally located in Deccan, where actually Muhammad bin Tughlaq wanted to make a capital, perhaps helped his works to go all over India. And I just want to say that works like Vasana Bhashya of Bhaskara, or Aryabhatiya Bhashya, or Jyotirmimamsa of Nilakanta offer us a view of the methodology of sciences in India. Studying similar texts of other Shastras, we will find that indeed there are different ways of doing sciences. Historically at least there have been different ways of doing sciences and even mathematics than what is all too familiar to us by the study of Greek and modern tradition of science. And a detailed study of this will be of relevance not only for knowing the history correctly, but as our friend Professor Hayashi has indicated, this understanding the way sciences have been done is something that could be of use for our constructing the future of science also. So this is from the website of Professor Hayashi, that the discipline of modern science originated in 17th century West, but before that, perspectives on nature as well as approaches to it differed considerably according to place, nationality and time. This fact suggests that the modern scientific view of and approach to nature is neither unique nor absolutely correct, and that there are alternatives to it. And to learn about these alternatives is the mission where our friends and others have looked at history of science. Meaning there are many, many other uses of history of science than merely trying to understand the past. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I take 1 minute.
We don't have much time for questions, but anyway, some 7-8 minutes. So yeah, please.
Thank you very much for wonderful exposition through which we have got some Bhuta Tattvartha Bodha. But I have a basic question. What does Vasana mean? I mean, we put two parallel verses. In one, it says, Vimalita Manasam Vasana Abhyasa Yogaihi, referring to Bhaskara above, and here also Vimalita Manasam Vasana Abhyasa Yogaihi, referring to our own Bhaskaracharya. Bhaskaracharya is a bit vain. He put both, but what exactly is Vasana? You are.
No, I don't know the derivation of the word.
Yeah.
But what Bhaskara is doing is a justification along with explanation. So the other words used are yukti, then upapatti. These are the three, and perhaps they may not all mean the same thing.
But I mean, the interesting point is, it's Bhaskara who used Vasana in this sense of Upapatti, Yukti, and so on.
Prutudaka, I think, is using.
Prutudaka?
Prutudaka uses
Okay.
the available portions of the commentary.
Indeed.
It is.
Okay.
Bhaskara one is not using the word vasana.
I know that.
Here, word upapatti occurs once or twice in
Yeah.
upapannam, anupapannam. It occurs in Indian philosophical discourse much more than in perhaps mathematics.
Thank you.
See, my guess is Vasudhatu, the root, primarily means something which resides. So if one were to present a derivation of this, Vasyate yena chitte idam tattvam, sa vasana. I think that could be the derivation for vasana.
Basis.
Just perhaps some additional insight. Amaraja is a commentator who writes on Brahmagupta's Khandakajika. He clearly makes a distinction between three sections of his commentary. First he starts Ayamartaha, and then he has Atra Vasana, and then he has Atra Utpatti. Utpatti, which is different again from an Upapatti. The Utpatti is where he actually, to use a technical modern term, crunches the numbers. Vasana does not invoke the numbers, but maybe the geometry or figures. The Utpatti is where he crunches the numbers to back up his facts.
He is writing a commentary on a Karana text. So there he has to produce the parameters that the Karana text is talking about from a Siddhantic basis. If you read Professor P.C. Sengupta's translation also, he is also doing this Utpatti. He is using the parameters of Brahmasputta Siddhanta and showing that the simpler calculation given by Brahmagupta is reason. I think that's where the word Utpatti there. We have to produce the rule from the...
Do you think that's what Bhaskara means in his Jotpatti?
No, yes, production of science. Yes, generation of science, absolutely.
Can I ask one more question? You mentioned the iterative procedure with the Manda Shigra, the 4 steps. Bhaskara says, I think in the Karana Katuhala for Mars, that you apply it to half the Manda when you do subsequent steps. Do you know why he says this?
No, in fact, there is a statement of Bhaskara. Only for the Kuja he is advocating that, and for the Marx is advocating that, and then he is saying that atra upalabdhireva vasana nanyat kin. You see, he is saying yadi tu dalikrita pratabam palabhyam. That is the making the half shigra correction, manda correction. इत्यादि कुजस्य विशेष तत्र उपलब्धिरेव vasana. So this upalabdhireva vasana is a very, very common phrase. Wherever Indian astronomers are not able to explain what they are doing, but where they think the results are in accordance with observation, there the observation is the justification, and they could even go to the extent of keeping some contradictions in their theory, as long as the results are in conformity with observations. But don't be worried that this contradiction will not lead to problem, because they rarely use arguments based upon reductioid absurdum. If you had a reductioid absurdum basis for your all derivations, then if you have one contradiction, all statements become true. But they don't use such arguments, therefore they are able to sort of maintain sanity amidst contradiction.
Well, I do worry that if Bhaskaracharya does not understand, then I have little hope of understanding myself.
No, there is some explanation in Yukti Bhasha about this four-step process. The fact is this, I mean, in one sentence if I have to say, the Mandakarna is changing, and that is an input in the actual final Shigra Phala. If the Shigra Phala is to be correctly calculated, it is on the radius of a Manda circle with the true Manda radius as the radius. And therefore, the tabulated Shigra values will become dependent on the value of the Manda Phala. So you should have a double tabulation based upon the Manda argument and the Shigra argument both, which becomes it is not a table any longer, it becomes a three-dimensional array. Therefore, to reduce the problem, it is suggested that maybe this four-step process ameliorates the need to use so you can give separate tables for Manda process, separate table for Shigra process. That is the kind of explanation Yukti Bhasha is offering, though we are not able to so far able to justify that explanation from the kind of calculation that.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas.